Hi guys, it's been 6 weeks since I made the last Full Scope Timeline hangout, and I've put out a couple of short videos since then, which you'll find on the dedicated video page. This will be quite short. The theme I'm going to talk about here is cover-ups and witch hunts. The two often go together, and they're not always related to rape or sexual offences, of course. What is a witch hunt? A witch hunt is where, I suppose it could be a form of collective madness. It's where authorities, or sometimes the wider population, go after an individual, group of individuals, group of people, just for the hell of it. They're accused of often imaginary crimes. Sometimes they're real crimes, but they're exploded out of all proportion. A cover-up is where there are real crimes, real, not necessarily crimes, but misfeasance or malfeasance by the police, by other government agencies, by private companies, and nobody sees anything. They'll look the other way. No amount of evidence is good enough. Recently, the other day in fact, I put out a video called Owen Jones Lies About the Grooming Gang, so I'll put a link to it below. For those of you who are not familiar with this, the grooming gangs, the grooming gang scandal is something that's been going on for maybe a lot longer than 20 years, but certainly going back to the turn of the millennium, in which organised gangs of, as Jack Straw, former Home Secretary Jack Straw put it, British men of Pakistani origin, who regarded young white girls as easy meat. They were going around picking up girls, mostly underage girls, and when I say underage I mean 13, sometimes a bit younger than that. They're having sex with them. Of course, that's having sex with a girl under the age of 13 is rape. No ambiguity. It's rape, yeah. And I mean, men in their 40s have sex with 13-year-olds. No, not in this day and age. Maybe in medieval times. Let's not talk about Muhammad and Aisha. But in this day and age, no. And incredible that may seem, the police have been like the police in many towns and cities were turning a blind eye to this. Now, I have only limited sympathy for some of these girls, and none at all for Sammy Woodhouse, that little slut. But there was enormous, I mean, the cover-up's just unbelievable. Anyway, check out my video on Owen Jones, who is really disgusting, absolutely disgusting. He's made similar pronouncements about October 7th last year, about the massacres in the Zionist entity. And you know, it's just A, it didn't happen, or B, white men do most of it. No. Now, if you contrast that with Operation Yewtree, you'll find Operation Yewtree on the timeline. What happened there was, as I pointed this out, and others have done it, in particular the anonymous blogger More Larkin and the late Suzanne Cameron Blackie, stroke Suzanne Nundy, who blogged as Anna Raccoon. They established that Jimmy Savile was basically, Jimmy Savile is regarded as the most prolific paedophile and occasional rapist this country's ever seen. Basically, he was innocent, totally innocent. what happened. Check out my video, I'll put a link to it below, The Truth About Jimmy Savile. You can follow the links from there. Jimmy Savile was the victim of a false conspiracy, if you like, by a number of women who had been inmates, pupils at Duncroft School in the 1970s, and they hatched this conspiracy in social media in the 2000s, just about 2007. In 2009, Savile was questioned by the police about these allegations. He debunked them all. After his death, they were simply regurgitated, and of course he was no longer in a position to deny them. And the police appealed for witnesses to come forward, victims to survivors to come forward, and they came forward in their droves. Because they were unable to prosecute a dead man, the authorities went after celebrities, and it was open season on male celebrities. There were many arrests. They destroyed Rolf Harris, but fortunately, thanks to me, he died a free man. I'll put a link to that below as well. David Link Travis, the guy his life was trashed. Not all those involved, not all those accused were innocent. There was the homosexual Chris Denning, but most of those were totally innocent. They tried to, they went after Paul Gambaccini, who was a homosexual, Cliff Richard, and what they did to try to do to Richard was disgusting. And again, I'll put a link to it below. These are witch hunts, and the contrast is absolutely staggering. Because on the one hand, with the Grooming gang case, there was actually this is unbelievable but true. A 13-year-old girl had an abortion, right? The police seized the fetus. They did DNA tests on it. And yet, was there a rape conviction? Was there a rape charge? No. And this is going on. Of course, anybody who mentions this outside of the mainstream, well, racist. Yeah, sure, yeah. Tommy Robinson, I'm not in total agreement with, I'm not in total sympathy with him. Well, I have sympathy with the guy, the way he's been treated, but I don't share his ideology. He's done more to expose these gangs than anyone, him and Maggie Oliver. And the way he's been treated is just absolutely disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. The witch hunts are going on still in America. Pardon the creaking desk. And that brings me to Russell Simmons. This is the front page of the Guardian website, February 13th. Russell Simmons sued over alleged rape of Def Jam executive in the 1990s. Plaintiff alleges she faced harassment and battery by the hip-hop mogul, and her career was stalled by his assaultive behaviour. Simmons has been accused many times by these demented women. This all started with the witch hunter Bill Cosby, and again I'll put a link to this below, especially to my video, The Prior Bad Acts of Gloria Allred. Cosby had an ambiguous encounter with a woman who, well, I mean, make of it what you will. Months later, she accused him of digital whatever, horrible, yuck. This woman had been drinking and took drugs, over-the-counter drugs, which Cosby gave her. Before you give any credibility to a woman who's been drinking alcohol and taking drugs, and especially when there's a delayed response, a delayed allegation, check out, and again I'll put a link to this, the Rodney Anderson case, and follow the links. Basically, they have these flashbacks which are inaccurate. well, without extremely good corroboration, they are inaccurate. They make compelling witnesses because they're not lying in the conventional sense. With Cosby, the odious Gloria Allred, who should be disbarred for what she did in the Judge Roy Moore case, that's included in the video. She brought forward a stream of women who made the most ludicrous allegations against Cosby. Some were clearly not right in the head. Others were in it for the money, and they were all lying. All none of them had any credibility. And as a result of that, there's been a concerted attack on statutes and limitations in America. We don't have them here for rape, which is very, very bad. As a result of that, there have been a number of, I mean, most notably was that lunatic E. Jean Carroll, who accused Trump of Donald Trump, and the recent judgment for $83 million for him daring to protest his innocence. It's just absolutely outrageous. And the witch hunt of Trump has continues, not of sexual allegations, but he's just been fined $350 million for an allegation of fraud that had no victim, or well, if there were victims, that they were defence witnesses. It's absolutely outrageous what they're doing to this man, what they're trying to do to him. I mean, Russell Simmons has been this Jane Doe plaintiff. The Jane Doe plaintiff describes a former senior music executive, a video producer at the label, filed suit in New York Federal Court on Tuesday. They lifted the statute of limitations in New York. Some say this is to accommodate suing Trump, but no, this is all Gloria Allred's doing, and she's had success elsewhere as well. Some success. I've said before that these Jane Doe cases shouldn't be allowed. I mean, in a criminal case, it wasn't, at one time, if a woman accused a man of rape, her name was out there. In a criminal case, especially involving kids, sexual offences against kids, then yeah, obviously anonymity. Women who accuse men of rape, in a criminal case maybe, but civil cases, no, they should not be allowed to do this. It shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be permitted. So there's all this stuff here. The plaintiff alleges that while she and Simmons had a professional working relationship at first, Mr. Simmons revealed his true colours, black, and through his insulting behaviour, disabled Ms. Doe's career at Def Jam, a job she loved at the height of her success and financial viability. In other words, this is yet another pathetic woman who's blaming her failures on something some man did to her, be it real or imaginary. Real, be it sexual violation, consensual sex, or totally imaginary sex. The complaint is one of a number brought against music business executives under the New York Adult Survivors Act, including Sean Diddy Coombs, Jimmy Savile, ex-Grammys chief executive Neil Portnow, Cuba Gooding Jr. and Jamie Foxx. You think all these men had nothing better to do than to rape women? They took these jobs just to rape women, No, I mean, women queue up to a certain type of woman queues up to drop her knickers for men in positions of power. That's the reality. Or sometimes generally genuine relationships. You work with people and you get friendly with them. No, it's up with men and women. It can be sexual, but with guys that they go out for a beer or whatever. Visit each other's families and go to social events together. But this is, and of course with this, there's no forensic evidence at all, none whatsoever. There's words, And as I've said before many times, with an allegation of any historicity, no evidence is required, only words and maybe a few tears. Another victim of witch hunt is back in the news. That's Harvey Weinstein, who is appealing his New York cases. I mean, again, Weinstein has been convicted in 2 states of rape, and he's going to die in prison the way things are, but no physical evidence. Not one of these women who's alleged to have raped filed a contemporaneous police report or sought medical attention. Not one. Think about that. Think about it. And there is evidence that there was an actress or model who the feds, I think the feds or the police wired her up because Weinstein had come onto her, and they sent her back to him at his hotel room, and he did everything but drag her inside, and she said, "Yeah, you touched my breast." He apologised for that. But in the end, he was nasty, but that's as far as it went, you know. And to me, that indicates he's a guy who has boundaries. But it's it's easier to say I was raped by a music executive, or by a film executive, than to say I dropped my knickers for a repulsive, overweight, squint-eyed Jew in order to get a movie part or whatever. Which brings us to, I'll keep this one short. The Epstein case is both a cover-up and a witch hunt. It's been a witch hunt of Prince Andrew, who did nothing wrong. And when I say cover-up, I mean the late Jeffrey Epstein was doing things he shouldn't have been doing, but I don't think there was any credible evidence that he was raping women or girls. Lady Victoria Harvey believes she's found at least one woman who claims she was raped as a, I think, an underage girl. I'll say this about Lady Victoria: she is 100% genuine in what she says, what she believes. It may be that she's been played by somebody, maybe more than one person. Maybe she's partying with money as well. But I don't for one moment question her sincerity. But what she says about Prince Andrew, I mean, that ridiculous photograph, I'll show the photograph here. Well, it's a ridiculous photograph, but this photograph, even if it's genuine, does not prove that Prince Andrew was sexually abusing underage girls. And when Andrew sat down with Emily Maitlis, he hadn't been properly prepared by his team, and she asked him a few hard questions, which he came across as a dick, basically. But when earlier that chiselling little whore, the former Virginia Roberts, was questioned by the same interviewer, Maitlis never asked her one hard question, not one, even though she's admitted in her own words on more than one occasion to recruiting underage girls for Epstein. In other words, she was a self-confessed child sex trafficker, and yet she's been allowed to get away with this. Right, now just to round up, we see witch hunts and we see cover-ups with no real no consistency. I will end by saying that I have myself been a victim of sort of a witch hunt, but it was a cover-up which is so extraordinary I won't mention it here. It involves more than one police force. I won't mention it, I won't go into details here, but the way they do it is they dismiss you as a crank or as an attention seeker or whatever, without investigating anything you say, unless they want to get you. And that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me in 1996. Filth and scum that they are. And then later, a cover up of gargantuan proportions. I'll say no more than that. Well, I'll finish now with saying that I hope to make a few more videos fairly soon. I've been preoccupied with other things. My health isn't so good. I've been sleeping a lot. I've been still doing work on the timeline. I've had quite a few cases recently and augmentations, but my days are my time is limited, and I do the best I can. I've taken off my Patreon my Patreon video from the site, because from the full site timeline, because I never attracted a single a single supporter, a single patron in over 7 years, which is very disappointing. I've had 1 or 2 contributions, and of course I still have a site sponsor. My original site sponsor died in 2022, but I've still got, I hope I've still got my second site sponsor. I haven't heard from him for a bit. He's older than me and not in the best of health, but I hope he's okay anyway. Unlike somebody else of my acquaintance who I will very likely be publishing an obituary for in the sadly not too distant future. But I'm still adding cases to the timeline. If you have any that I haven't found, especially if there's documentation which is not in the public domain, you know where I am. I've had people send me stuff before, and I'm particularly looking for any in countries where I've got no or little. I don't think I've got any from Paraguay, for example. So false allegations from Paraguay, Bolivia, Chile, Turkey. I'm not sure I've got any from Turkey, or Turkey, or whatever it's called now. I've got 1 or 2 from Russia, but I want to get a lot more. So if you've got any in foreign languages, if you want to send me a link, that's fine. And again, you know where I am if you want to contact me, and please share this video. I'll be uploading it to YouTube and then in due course to BitChute, Rumble, and of course the Internet Archive. That's assuming I live that long.